Hello, everybody. I am addressing parents today as we enter this uncharted sort of period in the school's history. I hope, first of all, that everyone has had a happy and a safe vacation period, unexpected though the timing was. And I hope everybody and your family and friends have all remained healthy. I hope people have managed to remain calm in these very, very stressful times. I wanted to talk to parents today just in largely to prepare them for the process of online learning or remote learning, whatever you want to call it, which does take place and begin from the 22nd of March, which is next Sunday. It is something new for families, it's something new for teachers, for the school, and certainly going to be something new for the students. I think the important thing to start with is that there are going to be challenges ahead. This is not necessarily going to be a seamless and easy process, but I also think from a positive point of view, families, teachers, parents need to look at this also as an opportunity. It is an opportunity to look at online learning and to become much more familiar with online learning. We've got to remember as a school community, for our students, they are 21st century learners. Their future education is going to resemble what we're doing in the next few weeks, much more than it's going to resemble traditional classroom teaching. So we do have to make sure that our learners, as both students and later as workers, are prepared for these new modes of acquiring knowledge, these new modes of communication, these new modes of exchanging information. So using our resources to create 21st century learners and to, in a sense, almost force them into a situation where this becomes their new way of doing things, that is an opportunity as well as something of a frightening prospect. Our students, unlike maybe our parents and perhaps even some of our more established teachers, for them, this is the way they live. They live online, they communicate online, they socialize online. It's a smaller step perhaps for some of them to start being taught online and to learn online almost exclusively. And for the school, it does represent breaking down the walls. We are departing from traditional formats. We're doing something that for many staff is unfamiliar, it is novel, and it is going to be a challenge, but again, also an opportunity, doing things in different ways. The advantages of e-learning also include things like accessibility. Our students don't necessarily have to access everything at the time it's delivered. They can revisit stuff, check their learning. They can be anywhere. It can be at any time that suits them when they do access some of this stuff. They can revisit things they're not entirely grasping. So there should be a very intense period of learning and a period of learning where the students have a lot more control than perhaps they might do in a traditional classroom. It is also an opportunity for much more personalised learning, that students ought to be getting very individualised feedback still. They still will be getting stuff marked, they'll be submitting their work, and monitoring, assessment, all of those normal teaching and learning activities will still continue uninterrupted. What are we offering as a school? I suppose fundamentally it comes down to a single sentence. Our school commits, and our pledge to you as parents is that we will offer continuity of learning. That implies that there won't be major barriers or breaks in your children's learning, and that ultimately when they do return to classrooms, they will do so without any major barriers, major impediments, or without any disadvantage for having been away from school for a period. The teaching and the learning will be challenging, it will still be searching, it will still be appropriate age-wise and curriculum-wise. It is not going to be a holiday, it is not playing games, it will not be simply filling in worksheets. I think parents will be surprised by the variety and the depth of the learning that can take place. Our parents and students have obligations to us as a school and to themselves, I suppose, in making this work. There are going to be things like schedules, the family schedule, the routines that are established in the family home. These are things that the school can't control. Parents, children are going to have to work those out, negotiate them themselves, and come up with a solution that works for you as a family around work commitments, availability of the computers or the laptops in the home, etc. Routines and schedules are going to be important. It is important that during this time students do have a recognisable work-study location. That probably will be the same place that they traditionally use for homework, but it might need to be a new arrangement, particularly if you have several children working in the house or the apartment, and they might be in slightly different locations or might need to be in slightly different locations, and so on. So access, submitting works, timetables, all of that should be very, very obvious from the communications from school. Communication with teachers, technical issues, you will be informed about how to get over those and who you should contact if there are concerns or there are difficulties in any of those areas. We also do need to suggest that we're still hoping, and I think parents need to support us in this, that the education that carries on in the next few weeks remains purposeful. It is focused on learning, it is focused on good teaching, and our students, your children, still need to preserve the same sort of good study habits, the same sort of commitment to hard work that they bring to classrooms every day. We also recognise that if students are working at home, if they are in isolation in particular, that they miss a lot of the social interactions and the benefits they get from being at school from that point of view. We do need families to recognise there are health issues involved, screen time, lack of exercise, lack of fresh air, and you do have to find a way around some of those impediments and some of those difficulties as well. So the parental responsibilities, I suppose, as well as providing a proper learning environment and ensuring the routines are being met. As a parent, I think you've got to ward against feelings of social isolation. Please recognise your child does need to be in touch with peers and friends, not necessarily during a learning block during the day, but interactions on social media are going to be important, particularly if they are replacing face-to-face meetings and play. Your children will need rest. They cannot be expected, I think, to sit in front of a computer for several hours in the day uninterrupted. So rest and exercise are going to be crucial. Our PE department, our sports teachers will be uploading stuff to keep the children healthy, keep them strong, keep them as fit as possible. And in many cases, those exercises and activities will be appropriate for doing in a house or in an apartment. And I think all students need to try to access the PE videos and advice as well as their academic guidelines also. Well-being and safeguarding. Your child will be at home a lot of the time. They'll be online a lot of the time. That brings its own dangers, obviously, which most parents will be familiar with. You've got to have some way of checking that your child is in touch with the school when they claim to be, that they're not surfing or accessing inappropriate sites and so on. From a school point of view, our well-being concerns and our safeguarding concerns will insist that, for example, no teacher is online with a single student alone. There will be some live videos and there will be plenty of videos uploaded, but they will be presented to a group. Under no circumstances should your child be in a position where they are communicating one-on-one with a teacher. I think teachers are very educated and very conscious of the safeguarding and well-being concerns that we have as a school and that you have as parents. Family resources are going to be an issue and a concern. Do you have enough computers? If you have 2 or 3 children at the school, how do we stagger access to devices so all of them can share in the learning? Again, routines will depend on the resources at home, but will involve some input and some management by parents and by the older siblings, perhaps, when we have particularly young children involved in trying to access online learning. The timings. again, we would expect in most cases the children are ready to access their learning at 8 o'clock in the morning. I think having that habit of getting up, showering, having breakfast, being ready for school time is a good habit to form right from the very beginning, and we would encourage that sort of discipline and those sort of routines. Your children will have gaps. They will have times where there is stuff that is not coming through, or there might be glitches, technological glitches, and so on. One thing I would say to parents, when you think about it, however difficult the situation we're in at the moment, it is a historic moment for this country, for the earth. There are massive things going on. Your child, whether they're in primary school or whether they're ready to graduate in year 12, 13, are going through a world crisis. It is a historic moment in the history of the earth. What I would suggest, and again, my background as a literature teacher, as an English teacher, may be coming to the fore, do encourage your children to blog, to write journals, to record their experiences during these next few weeks. It is going to be of historic significance to them as they grow older, and it is going to be perhaps of historic significance just to have a record of what it was actually like to work through this crisis. And again, it gives them a focus which is positive, which is productive, which is creative, and which can be shared again in interaction with their friends and their peers. Our teachers are very, very well prepared for this. They have worked extremely hard to get all of this ready to go on time, and they will be available. Teachers will be online and will be available during working hours. They will be preparing and marking and assessing in the evenings as they usually do. Some of them will be working from school, some will be working from home, but our expectation is that teachers will continue to work harder on e-learning and online learning than they do perhaps in a normal school situation. That has certainly been the case since the prospect of going online arose 3-4 weeks ago. The teachers have put in huge amounts of work and will continue to show the normal SES traits, dedication, engagement, care for the students. That will continue uninterrupted. You have my assurance of that. I've also, and the leaders of primary and secondary have also insisted, the learning that happens will be meaningful, it will be purposeful, it will be varied, it will be challenging, it will have quality. You will not simply be receiving a load of worksheets to be filled out. It will be much more creative, much more engaging, and much more challenging than that. So the students can expect an experience that is very, very similar to what they would get in a classroom context. The assessment and the marking, the availability of teachers, they have all committed to those sort of principles, and again, the school will expect the staff to measure up just in the same way that we're asking students and parents to step up to this enormous challenge as well. There will be opportunities for differentiation. Children who are in learning support are gifted and talented children. They should be receiving stuff that either supports them or challenges them in a completely appropriate way, both age appropriate and appropriate in terms of their curriculum and their cognitive abilities and so on. So they should be getting that differentiation and support. Learning support department will be involved in the online teaching as well as our normal class teachers and subject teachers. Our aim is whenever we do return to school that there is a relatively seamless return, simply because pupils will not have been at a disadvantage in terms of content, in terms of their progress, in terms of their study habits and so on. There are going to be concerns. Many parents, in particular, I would suspect the parents of children who have examinations pending, GCSE and A-level examinations, clearly there is going to be particular stress and there are going to be particular concerns there. I would assure you again that the school is on top of that as much as we can be. We're in touch with the exam boards on an almost daily basis. We're in touch with the education authorities on an almost daily basis. We can't predict what's going to happen in June, whether the exams will actually take place, whether that will be impossible, possible, whether they'll be rescheduled, we don't actually know. But with exam classes, we've got to progress and we've got to proceed on the assumption that the children will be sitting their examinations at the normal timetabled period of May and June. What are we looking for from our students? I think on the whole, they will probably be able to answer that question as well as I can. Our students know what we expect of them. We are expecting them to be resilient. We're expecting them to put up with the discomfort and the inconvenience of this arrangement. We're expecting them to be disciplined, to be hardworking, to be independent, to be ambitious, to be supportive of their peers, their siblings, their friends who might be struggling. Exactly the sort of principles of learning and exactly the sort of pupil profile we expect when they are in school. They will know those qualities. You should be able to expect them from your children, and certainly the teachers will be looking to see those qualities come through, perhaps even stronger in this situation than they would have to do in a classroom context. Length of time this will go on, that is not something that we can definitively answer. We are hoping that we will be able to return to school after 2 weeks of online learning. If that does change, the school will communicate that with you very, very quickly. But our ambition, our desire will be to get people back into classrooms as quickly as is possible under the health circumstances and under the guidance of the education authorities, the Ministry for Health and the UAE government. It is a difficult time. It's difficult to communicate during a time like this. You all know me personally. You know my commitment to the school. You know the length of time I have been with the school. I am taking this opportunity to give each and every family a personal commitment that I will make this work. I will make this work for families, I will make this work for parents and students, and I will make this work for our staff as well. I have a responsibility to the students, to everyone in the school community. I would ask parents also to recognise my responsibility to SES teachers and to SES staff. I am going to be dealing with a group of staff who are phenomenally committed, phenomenally dedicated, but who are working in circumstances now, like many of you will be, where they fear for their jobs, they fear for their future, they fear for their salaries. I will take my responsibility to the teachers very, very importantly. To me, it is as important as my responsibility to the parents and the students. Without the teachers, we do not have a school. I also have responsibility to my Board of Governors, who have been very, very supportive and will be meeting regularly during this crisis to review how the school is doing. They will be supporting us in terms of how we plan financially and strategically for this period, and the Board of Governors will be there to represent parents' views and parents' concerns as well. I will be in touch daily with SPIA, with the Private Education Authority. They have been very, very supportive and very proactive in assisting schools, and that engagement, that communication will continue throughout this process. Ultimately, however, individuals can all step up and measure up to their own responsibilities. There is also that community, that cohesive family responsibility that SES has always shown in our events, in our tragedies, in our successes, in our normal way of functioning. We are a community that always shows and always provides an effective support network to our students, to our parents, to our families. That sense of community, that is going to be very, very important as we work through this. We are all in a difficult situation. We need to work together on this. We need to understand there will be glitches, there will be problems, there will be technological issues, but if we can work together, we can get through this very, very successfully. I do wish you luck. I do care that the families do get through this successfully, and I would say probably to the families, to the parents, exactly what I said to teaching staff when I saw them before the vacation. Please Be brave. This is a very challenging and difficult situation. Be brave. Be strong. It's not always going to be possible to be strong and resilient at all times. We will all have doubts. We will all have concerns, but we do have to be strong. Be united. Work together as a community. Work with us as a school. Work with your children. If we're united, we will be very, very strong, and we will get through this. Given the reason for the school suspension, obviously our prime concern at this moment is that people in our community look after themselves. You need to look after yourselves as parents for your children. You need to look after your children and your families. Keep people safe, keep people healthy. Please do follow the government advice in terms of social distance, in terms of interactions, travel, etc., etc. Please be safe, look after your loved ones, and hopefully we will all get back together in school in much more normal circumstances very shortly. Thank you very much indeed.